Presenting tonight's final special honor, author and journalist Will Haygood of the Washington Post.
According to the historic almanac, the day dawned bright and lovely in Cleveland, Ohio on September 16, 1954. City leaders were still talking about the Supreme Court decision known as Brown v. Board of Education, delivered just weeks earlier, that had ruled that segregated education in America was unconstitutional. It was on that day, September 16, 1954, that a child was born in that city. Without knowing it, of course, he was born in a time of swirling history and rising freedom. His name, Gregory L. Moore. That child grew up and headed off to an Ohio college in 1972. That very summer of 1972, in Washington, D.C., a group of thieves broke into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate complex. Two Washington Post reporters sensed it was more than just a break-in, and it was. It was a conspiracy hatched inside the Richard Nixon administration that led to his impeachment. The editor at the Washington Post who led the newspaper during this time of galvanizing reporting and editing was Benjamin C. Bradley. After that summer, print journalism caught fire in America. Many college students changed their majors. There were TV shows and movies about crusading newspaper reporters. To be a newspaper reporter suddenly seemed thrilling. Greg Moore found himself excited about journalism. He got jobs on newspapers, first in Dayton, then at his hometown Cleveland Plain Dealer, where he rose to city editor. Then came the Boston Globe, where in 1994 he was appointed managing editor. In 2002, he was appointed executive editor of the Denver Post. In 2004, Greg Moore was appointed a member of the Pulitzer Prize Board. From 2012 to 2013, he was co-chairman of the Pulitzer Board, of which there is no higher honor than that in overseeing the annual selection of the best in journalism, music, fiction, nonfiction, and poetry that our writers and artists produce in this nation. In 2012, the 40th anniversary of Watergate, in the legend of the Washington Post and Benjamin Bradley, Gregory Moore was named the Benjamin C. Bradley Editor of the Year by the National Press Foundation. His talent matched the symmetry, which matched the moment, which gave honor to the brilliance of Gregory L. Moore. Moore has led his newspaper, the Denver Post, up on the journalistic mountaintop. There have been a vast number of awards, among them a Pulitzer Prize in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013. That is a stunning streak in any newspaper's history. So, the kid who went off to college would wake up one day and find himself in the whispering legend of American letters. He is demanding, and he is a friend to all of those who are in his friendship orbit. I love him because I have learned from him both in and out of the newsroom. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with deep pride that I present to you the 2013 National Association of Black Journalists Lifetime Achievement honoree, Gregory L. Moore.
Greg is the newsman.
Greg is a thoughtful leader.
Greg is all about the news.
Greg Moore is the bomb editor.
He is just one of a handful of African American and minority editors who are leading newsrooms. Our number of top editors who are minorities has gone down.
Even though he's not done achieving, I think he deserves it because of the vision he's brought to newspapers here and before here. You know, it's one thing to come in and run a newspaper day to day, but it's a whole nother to set that newspaper on a path to the level of excellence he brings to the Denver Post.
During the Aurora shootings, what Greg did was set the priorities for our coverage. He detailed several stories that he wanted to make sure we got immediately, and it was those stories, I think, that impressed the judges in a way that ended up with the Pulitzer Prize.
Greg Moore understands people, and he understands communities. And what that means is that whether he's in Boston, whether he's in Cleveland, whether he's in Dayton, or whether he's in Denver, he understands that community. He understands the news of what that community needs to know.
The vision he brings requires us to just keep reaching for harder and harder stories, to find the enterprise to do that extra digging work that just makes the Denver Post what it is today.
Greg challenges everybody who works for him, and never have I felt more challenged by an editor, but never have I felt more appreciated by an editor.
Greg's leadership as the editor of the Denver Post is crucial. We are becoming a country that is much more diverse. And unfortunately, what's happening to our newsrooms are becoming less diverse. You cannot cover a community if you don't look like that community.
I've known Greg Moore pretty much throughout his entire journalism career. I can't think of anybody who has dedicated as much to the profession, as much to telling the news the way it should be told. And what makes him special is the characteristic that has given him staying power in an industry that has changed so much over the last 30, 35 years.
Well, it's hard following Roland, I'll tell you that. Been following him all my life, all his life. First, I want to thank the Almighty for the privilege of being on this earth. It's a great thing. I want to thank the board of NABJ. I want to thank the selection committee. Having served on the board, I know how much effort goes into this. I know how serious it is in selecting the recipients of the prizes, and I'm just really honored to be among them. I want to thank my wife. People at my table just told me, don't forget to do that. Nina, thank you for being with me, being behind me, being in front of me, being all over me, keeping me on point. I appreciate it. I want to thank my many friends who are here. I know a number of people sent me personal notes saying, I'm going to be there for you, so I really appreciate it. Will, I don't even know what to say. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I've known Will Haygood for 25 years. He is an incredible guy. I'm in awe of your talent, and I value your friendship. You're really the best. Now, earlier today, I hope a number of you had a chance to see the movie Lee Daniels' The Butler. They premiered it here at NABJ. And it's an incredible movie. It's an incredible incredible chronicle of our history, and it's based on a newspaper story that Will Haygood wrote that appeared in the Washington Post just on the eve of Obama's first election as president. It's just an incredible story. It's an incredible accomplishment. I'm so proud of Will. And as I was sitting there watching the movie, I was thinking about how far we've come. The fact that we as journalists have sort of crossed over, and to build on what Roland said, it's not just about getting a job at somebody's newspaper, somebody's television station. We've crossed over now. We're branding ourselves. We're branding our talents. We're telling our stories. We're doing our thing. And whether we remain as working journalists, or we become filmmakers, or we become book editors or book publishers, or we go on the speaking circuit, or we become multifaceted provocateurs like Roland Martin and Touré, this is the best time to be a free agent in our history. We get to call our own shots, and we can't be afraid to build our brands around our talents and tell our stories. There are some who say that I'm too, or I seem to be too young to get a Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm gonna take that as a compliment. But you know that you've achieved a measure of senior status when people are calling you Mr. Moore at an NABJ convention. And that's what's been happening to me for a couple of years, so. I've had a lot of help in getting to where I am along the way, but I have to be honest and say it all started with NABJ. I came to my first convention in 1984 looking for sustenance, and I found so much more. I found Merv Alpspan and Al Fitzpatrick and Carol Simpson and Dorothy Gilliam, Paul Delaney and Milton Coleman and Tom Morgan and Monty Trammer, Paula Madison, Vanessa Williams, and the great Sid Mill, S.D. Sumter. And then, of course, I found you. I gained from that a sense of community, a source of courage, and I found the confidence to go for it all. And in the tradition of our founders, in the tradition of those who came before us, in the tradition of those who we built and grew on their shoulders, I've tried to pay it forward and to do your memory with honor. In my near 37 years in journalism, I actually span the generations where we were once fighting for a seat at the table to a time now where we decide who sits at the table. That's some serious stuff. And you know, we've come a long way because it's not always been the case where people of color actually were entrusted with the enterprise. And today we have many black editors and many black general managers at TV stations, and many people who are writing breakthrough films like Fruitville Station and things of that nature. I mean, we've come a hell of a long way. It's been a remarkable journey. And I think the thing that makes this award so special is that it really chronicles how we've done it together. My career mirrors the career of NABJ. So I am so grateful for this honor tonight. I want to say to NABJ, thank you for making the world honor me tonight. I honor you. I am so grateful. Thank you, and long live NABJ.